losing 175,000 lending, private lending, accidental long-term landlord, finding joy in a cottage, short-term rental, scaling up to a motel, grossing over $100,000 per month so far. And you'll never guess where that motel is. All this and more on this week's Truth About Real Estate Investing show for Canadians. Konichiwa, my friends, from Osaka, Japan. Hello, my fellow wealth hackers. It's Erwin Seaver here. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to produce this episode this week because the jet lag has been a bit of a bee. Japan Standard Time is 14 hours ahead of Toronto time. And so that's 17 hours ahead of Vancouver time. It's actually easier to book a call with someone in Vancouver. For someone, like I can do a call with someone in Vancouver at like 4 p.m. and it'll be like my 9 a.m. this time. So it's better than Toronto time. A friend of mine asked if I was looking at real estate while here in Japan. And while we're having a blast here, this is my second visit to Japan, first with Cherry and the kids. What I love about this country is how polite and respectful the people are, how dedicated the Japanese are to their craft, and how they go outside their job description to deliver value. First off, there is no tipping here in Japan. Excellent service is part of the standard inclusion in the price that one pays, including taxi drivers to waitresses. Taxi drivers here will even wear suit and tie as well. One waitress even tracked down my daughter's e-reader. Long story short, my daughter left her Kobo e-reader in a bathroom of a kabuki theater. We thought she left it at the restaurant, so Cherry called the restaurant. They didn't have it, but the waitress took down Cherry's email. She, on her own volition, she contacted security. It's a big business, big building. So she checked with security. Luckily, someone turned it in, and the waitress emailed Cherry to let her know that where to go pick it up the next day, and we did. Also, what's interesting here is the streets and subways are spotless. There are no public trash cans, yet there is no litter. Everyone is expected to consume their own food and drink, take-out containers, and take it back, or just consume it where they bought it, or take it home take it home and put it in their own garbage. Personally, I'm a big fan of being organized, efficient, manners, and kindness. Japan has it all in spades. If that's not enough, I think you all know I'm big on studying economics. Japan leads the G7 nations in GDP per capita. Well, and that's ahead of even the Americans. While we in Canada, we are second last only to Italy. And we're actually projected to fall behind Italy pretty soon. So we will be last among the G7 nations. We're also lacking in kindness these days, as hate crimes are skyrocketing back home. Since October 7th, hate crimes have doubled. So just in a month and a half, hate crimes in Toronto have doubled the entire totals from last year in 2022. I don't know what my Canada is coming to. Will I invest in China? Sorry, in Japan. In Japan. I'll be in China next week. No, I haven't considered it because, like many developed countries, Japan is dying. Their birth rate is among the lowest at 1.3 per woman, according to the World Bank data, which is well below the 2.2 required to maintain a population. And so we're stuck here in Japan, also in Canada, we're stuck with a declining population. I don't know. Short-term rentals or hotels seem to make more sense here in Japan, partly because tourism is extremely hot here, and it helps that the yen is super cheap. There are a ton, and I've noticed in just walking around town, both in Tokyo and here in Osaka, there are a ton of boutique hotels and a ton of tourists. It also looks like all the newer buildings happen to be hotels and not condos for regular residential use. Where the Americans do have the Japanese beat is they have cheap, affordable real estate all over the country, outside of California and New York. They have a culture versus compared to the Asian culture. American culture is the men in American culture are more likely to help raise kids, and that when you combine those two things, along with many other things, they have more kids. The Americans have actually have among the highest birth rates among the G7. So as I do research all the time on this sort of stuff, I enjoy geeking out. I enjoy understanding how to optimize and be efficient with my real estate portfolio. So I've done a lot of research on the Americans, on markets where to invest. So I'll put together a report to aggregate all my research and to share it with the community, no charge. So my objective is so that I can stop repeating myself why places like Texas is a better investment than Alberta. Yes, and add to that, earning US dollars is better than Canadian dollars. If you don't believe me, ask any Japanese bank which currency they prefer to convert currency for or have a relationship with the bank with, right? Or really, you can ask any bank in the world which they prefer, which currency they prefer, which country do they have more relationships with banks. Another frequently asked question is, am I investing in Florida? No. I do love Disney World. I do enjoy my trips to Fort Lauderdale. And I love Florida. I'm a big fan of visiting there, but I despise risk with my investments, and that includes inflating insurance costs and hurricanes. I just want boring, uneventful cash flow, and I want to make money in US dollars, and I want to spend US dollars when I travel. And I can't wait to do more site visits, like in places like Memphis, Tennessee, Las Vegas, Nevada, Phoenix, Arizona, all fun places to visit. I could argue there are much more fun places to visit than Edmonton and Alberta. And again, they all have great economic fundamentals, each with thousands of manufacturing jobs on the way. The Americans are investing heavily. I think $750 billion the Americans are investing in bringing and reshoring manufacturing back to the U.S. Go ahead and try to find me those kind of numbers in Canada or anywhere else in the world. Again, I'll work with that on that U.S. research report so that you may compare any of these landlord-friendly markets with no rent control, no LTB, against whatever city or province that you're looking at. My Asian dad always raised me to look out for what is the best of the best. It was usually to humble me and let me know that there was always someone better. And no different with real estate and in my investments, which means, again, finding the most effective investment that will get you, the listener, and myself towards our goal of early retirement or financial peace as fast as possible. My research says for most people, most of the time, it's boring cash flowing properties in the Sunbelt states. If you buy it right and managed by top tier property management with proper above board financing. And that's all possible. And 6 months ago, this wasn't possible as far as I knew. This is exactly what we'll be teaching on Saturday, January 13th in partnership with Share Single Family Rentals and Land City with Scott Dillingham at our Iwan offices in Oakville, which will be available via virtual Zoom as well. We'll have about 40 seats in person. Those sold out within the first 2 weeks last time. So the details are in the newsletter, in our email newsletter, and in the show notes. So make sure you purchase, especially if you want a spot in person, please book that ASAP. On with this week's show. This week we have the lovely Victoria Clooney on the show, who has a very different journey. Well, maybe not a very different journey, but she is the first on this show. And understand, we've had somewhere around 330 episodes, 350 episodes. She's the first career Canadian Armed Forces personnel to be on this show. Victoria shares her journey of how she stumbled upon being a landlord by renting out her home when she was transferred for work to different bases, which is a common among military personnel apparently. While she made great money, it wasn't until she discovered or she developed her cottage property. She built additional cabins on her cottage property for short-term rental purposes during the pandemic, and that was when she realized that she enjoyed most about investing in real estate. Victoria has since leveled up into commercial recreational property. Specifically, she's bought, renovated, rented, sort of, and she's about to refinance a motel in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, which is a vibrant and historical coastal town known for its unique architecture and rich maritime heritage. If you're from out east, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the perfect location for a vacation property. You do yourself a favor, check out the Breeze Motel on Instagram. I got the link in the show notes as well as pictures, and it's stunning. So also understand it hasn't been a smooth and easy journey for Victoria, as she shares on today's episode, including she's owed $175,000 from a private borrower and she hasn't heard back from them in a year. Unfortunately, this is someone I've always known as a bad operator. Always do reference checks people. Again, I do think this is a good episode. And as more and more investors, specifically Canadian investors, want diversification away from long-term rentals, commercial is one way to go. So, and to follow Victoria, check her out on Instagram, Victoria Clooney, that's one word. She has her own meetup called Invest Her in Ottawa. And please enjoy the show. Hi, Victoria. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
I know this episode will be released in about 3 weeks' time, but happy Halloween to you. And what's keeping you busy these days, other than dressing up, and taking the kids?
I do have my costume here. I opted not to just because it will be presented later on, but keeping me busy. I'm juggling a lot. Yeah. What am I working on? So we're just closing up a very, very busy season with our motel. This was our first season that we opened our motel. Going through some refinances right now on a couple of properties, working on a development project with some partners, and I'm starting a partnership with the tiny homes company. So those are some big things keeping me busy. Also, my family. We're going to be doing trick-or-treating tonight. Work.
Okay, where do we start? Let's start with work. How long has your military career been?
I joined in 2001, so we're just over 22 years. I know. 22 years of service. It's it's hard, like, even hard for me to believe that it's been that long. I really can remember the first day that I joined and the feelings that I had, and now to look back of a full career, it's just amazing.
Yeah, my cousin joined. He works on the electronics in your large shipping airplanes.
Okay, all right.
The really big ones, the ones that deliver tanks, for example.
Okay, right. Great. So yeah. I'm Navy. That's the uniform that I wear, but I actually work for the Air Force right now and have been working for the Air Force for quite some time.
Fabulous. So you might run into him. And I was super excited for him because it's a wonderful career.
It's amazing.
For a young person.
It's
the pay's
incredible.
Fantastic. You get a pension.
Absolutely.
Basic training wasn't that hard from what he told me.
No, it's
like
definitely changed over time. That's for sure. And it is like the military is. I joined when I was 18 years old, and so it was a big shock for me. And 2001 is a lot different than 2023 type of service, but. You know, what you learn from it is incredible. Anybody in the military, you can just tell the difference in the way that they carry themselves, the way that they can adapt and overcome, and the organizational side of things, and just the push through things. Like there's a different way. I'd hire somebody from the military any day.
Yeah, my cousin joined when he was roughly 18.
Great.
And it's like he's making money while he's training, while his friends are all paying money to be in college and university.
You don't even want to know. Like, I just came out of 2 years of a master's program that was fully sponsored by the military. So I just completed my master's of organizational psychology that I did full time at Carleton.
Okay. And then what are you going to do with that degree?
So now I'm working for the forces. Of the position that I'm in right now is specific to the degree. So really they pre-posted me. So I came from Nova Scotia about 2.5 years ago to go to Carleton. And then when I finished, then I was then posted to work for the Air Force on the selection side.
I didn't know you're from Nova Scotia.
I am. Well, okay, I should say that's where I spent probably the most chunk of time in my life, but my dad was also military, so I was born into the military. We lived in Germany. We lived in Southern Ontario for a while, Cambridge, Guelph, and then I moved to Nova Scotia when I joined the forces because I went Navy.
Fascinating. And then how long you plan on staying there? You like it?
In Ottawa? We love it.
In part of the armed forces.
Oh, armed forces. So I'm under obligatory service for 3 years because of the school program. And that does get me to my 25th year of service. And at that time, I'm going to be fully pensioned. But I do love what I do. There's a real sense of pride, loyalty, of course, with the military. And so I don't want to just walk away, but, you know, from an investing side, I've been investing for a long time as well. And that's going really well for me. And I have a real passion for that. And so I'm thinking that I might just transfer into the reserves. So I'm Reg Force, which means full time. And we want to put our roots down here in Ottawa. For the first time, I want to finally, you know, secure myself somewhere and not always have that in the back of my mind that I'm going to be moving. And also for our son's really important. So my plan, and that can always change, but is to transfer into the reserves when my obligatory service is done.
Super cool.
Which then I get the contracts.
How is the pension worked? This is an investing show.
I know,
is it
yeah.
like, is it like teachers? Like what is it, like 60-70% of your last 5 years pay type thing?
So it is 5 years, last 5 years pay. And if I get to 25 years, it'll be 50%.
Fabulous.
And I'm under this is how old I am. I'm under the grandfather clause. So I'm actually at 20 years, I was pensionable. So now I'm going past my 20 years. And I can become an immediate annuitant, which means that I would then start to collect my pension right away if I retired.
That's awesome.
It's pretty good. It's, you know, at 18, I would look back and I'm just so grateful that I started when I did, because now I can, you know, live another life after this.
While you're still young.
Exactly.
Do you know what it is today? If someone joins today, is the pension different?
So the pension now, you have to go to 25 years, where before it used to be, they take you on shorter contracts. So you can do, each occupation would have their own length of time, but it's typically about 3 years that you would sign for. And then you would get offered another contract, and then basically another one that would take you to 25 years. And you can continue. We've got some people, I ran into somebody yesterday who's at 39 years of service right now.
They enjoy it that much.
They do.
So, for example, my cousin's housing costs are like a joke. Is that pretty much true if you wanted to, like your whole career?
Depends where you live. So certain areas will have, they call them PMQs. I think it's primary military quarters. And so, or personal military quarters, one or the other. But then you can have, it's like rentals, and you get on a wait list, and depending on the area will be how available that they are, but they're quite affordable compared to what it would be like. I don't know what Ottawa's are, but the options are there. And so because you're being told to move, really sometimes at a moment's notice, it's out of your control. You're going into areas that you might not know. There's two sides of the military. There's going to be somebody who will go into PMQs their whole career and never buy a property. Or there's people like me that every time you get posted, you're accumulating properties and you're investing in those areas.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll get off this topic soon in case the listener is bored. But I think it's important for young people. There's a lot of young people listening to this show. Like, this is an option. And the pension is incredibly important, because I think the statistic is somewhere around 50%. If you do not have a pension, this is Canadians. The average Canadian, 50% of them who do not have a pension will never be able to retire.
Absolutely.
Which is why I think it's incredibly important. And Canadian Armed Forces pension is likely one of the good ones. This isn't like unfortunately for like Sears employees, like their pension's gone.
Right? The job security that you have current and then afterwards of knowing that. I remember 2008, I was posted to Virginia. I was actually in Norfolk, Virginia during the crash of '08. And, you know, you look around and people were losing jobs. Banks were just shutting down. They were open one day, closed another. The housing crisis that was going on. And I remember just feeling so secure. And I had properties then too. And I knew that I could still pay my mortgage. I knew that regardless of what was going to happen, that all those bills were still going to be covered. You get that job security. You are able to, banks love me because both my husband and I are military. And so having that is also just great for credit, great for lending, financing.
Yeah, unlike other gurus out there, I'm not anti-job.
No,
I'm pro highest and best use.
100%.
You know, for like, I talk to people about active real estate investing all the time, and I let them know what the risks are and what the pay can be. But if someone's highest and best, it's hard for most people to make six figures as a real estate investor.
Absolutely.
Versus, you know, in a job, it's pretty easy, and you don't have to risk your own capital.
Absolutely. We've got a great quality of life that's important to us. And so we're not eating, you know, ramen noodles every night. Like, we live in a nice home. We use a lot of what we earn with our paychecks, our salary affords our lifestyle. And then my investments, I just keep regenerating it back into what I'm doing. And so I'm able to almost live these two streams, and it gives me a lot of comfort and happiness. And I also know that we're setting ourselves up for the future.
So let's talk about real estate investing. So how did you start as a real estate investor? Was it just, you just kept properties whenever you moved? You bought something when you moved to a city, kept it, rented it out, and you just kept going that way?
It really started unintentionally. I was very young, so I was getting posted from Ontario to Nova Scotia. I was about 20 years old, and that was 2004, and decided to have a pre-construction townhouse. And so I went through the process of picking out the flooring, picking out the cabinets. You know, the contractors would give me samples and I would choose them. And I felt really out of my element because I was about 20, and lived in it for the first year, saw the market, what was happening with the properties around. It was a brand new subdivision, and then sold it and did it again. So I made profit for that first one and then moved to a bigger one, which was a house. And so now I have allowances that I'm dealing with. And so I'm just starting to, I remember thinking, like, where's the light sockets going to go in the rooms, like picking the colors of the roof and the siding and all of that. And then from there, saved up enough to buy a bungalow. And then I got posted to the US. And at that time, I needed to rent out the bungalow because I was going to lose a lot of money if I went and sold it 3 months later. And so then I put tenants in that bungalow. And I remember I was looking back through my emails, I don't know, like a month ago, and actually found my old emails where I was putting ads out, and I'm talking to my friends, having them. So that's one benefit of the military, is that you've got all these, you know, brothers and sisters, family members, essentially. And so we're kids. I'm in the US, and then I have my friends are now looking out for my bungalow with tenants. I put tenants in it. I returned a year later, and I didn't have the heart to ask the tenants to leave, to move out. And so I again had saved up enough money, and I purchased a condo, lived in that, and then saved up enough money, just outgrew the condo, and then moved into a bigger house. And so really I started to like leapfrog my way through, and there was about a 10-year period. So I'm going through all of this, and I'm accumulating, and every property I'm making some returns on, and I'm just slowly getting through everything. But I'm not savvy whatsoever. There's not really any social media. I don't think to look into investing. I'm no intention. I'm just figuring it out. And then I got so resentful of being a landlord. I also was not. I was too cheap to hire property managers. I was never raising rents. I was just maintaining, but still just in that mindset that I didn't want to pay for a property manager. So as a result, I decided to sell everything. And by that time I'd met my husband, and I had convinced him to rent out his condo in BC. And so we had, you know, properties all over, decided to sell everything. And then we saw the money. That was the first time that I'd actually tapped into the returns and saw the funds. And we knew right then and there that all that resentment, all of the headaches or fearing the phone calls from the tenants was worth it. We just needed to be strategic about it. And so that was a big shift for me. And so we took our funds and we went right back into the market, but this time now purchasing duplexes, smaller multifamilies. And then I even purchased some bunkies on a lake, and I turned that into a glamping retreat. And so once I decided to become intentional, things just like opened up. I started to research, I started to educate myself, and look for the opportunities instead of just getting by.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was really, I mean, I look back and I'm really proud of the young girl that was figuring it out. Obviously, I wish that she knew she had somebody in her life to say like, no, this is the direction, because there was nobody in my life that was doing what I was doing. And so I was just figuring that out. But now that I know to be intentional and look at everything strategically, the sky's the limits. You know, I'm almost like a kid in the candy store now. I'm just making up for all this time, and I'm just trying to absorb and just grow.
Yeah, I remember those days, like early 2000s, like there wasn't much real estate education or meetings or networking. Rain was by far the biggest outfit, and they were fantastic. But if you didn't know about them, really there was only the Rich Dad. And then back in the early days of Rich Dad in Canada, it was largely American stuff.
Yeah. And so that just wasn't my scene. And I wasn't, social media to me, again, when you're in the military, you're not very drawn to social media. It's not something that, especially on the early days, nobody really knew how to handle it. And so for me, I was never on it, and I never really had it. I mean, you had your normal, just like Facebook for your family, but kept it very minimal. It wasn't until I had the glamping retreat, and it was beautiful location, that I didn't want to inundate my family with all these pictures but I wanted to take pictures all the time, and I posted it on Airbnb. So I decided to create an Instagram account, and I called it Bunkies on the Lake, and it blew up. Like, this account, all of a sudden, we're getting so much attention from guests, people who want to stay. Now we're converting these people into guests. We had the news reached out to me to do a segment. We had photographers wanting to come. And it was that time I realized the power of social media for business.
Okay, how do I find it? What do I Google?
Okay, so I've sold it, and so somebody else owns it. But you can, I believe I changed, so I kept the account, and because I just love the pictures. I think if you look up Clooney STR, you can find them. If not, I'll send you the link to it.
Like George Clooney?
Yeah, I know. Spelt a little different, but I wish we had those connections.
Okay, we don't have to promote them necessarily, because I know you have a motel business.
I do have a motel. So really it's, that transition, constantly just growing and using the skills and knowledge that I've developed throughout this whole life and this journey, and just being able to maximize it. It's been the theme.
So hang on, I want to spend some time on this. So you went from single family, long-term, and some small multi-residential long-term rentals, right?
Yes.
And you, just from your energy you pick up, you're more excited about the recreational property.
Very much so. It's and I still have the long term. Like I like having a diversified portfolio. And for me, it's pretty. I'm comfortable with the long term rentals. I'm now comfortable with the short term, but long term is fine. You know, there's a lot. I'm not keen on what's going on right now between the landlords and the tenants. And I talk about feel good investing a lot. And so when I'm looking to purchase, and the rates or the price that sellers wants today does not reflect what the revenue is coming in, but there's nothing that we can do about it. And I don't feel good about coming in and clean sweeping tenants. If tenants, that's the worst thing that they're doing, is paying under market value. I wish that there was a mechanism in place where we can balance it. I think that it should be fair, but that's not where we're at right now. So I'm not going to purchase a property to intentionally remove good tenants out of that property. But I was seeing a lot of that happening around me. I was seeing that was a lot of the messaging going on.
Yep.
And For me, I just like came to a day and I remember it very vividly and just said, like, I'm only going to focus on feel good investing. I'm not doing this because I have to invest in real estate. Like, I like the returns. Obviously, I see the end result and I have that vision, but there was other ways to make money. And so I have these standards that I maintain in my life, and I need it to feel good to me. And so, yeah, the motel was a big part of that feel good investing. I can choose the revenue. So the effort that I put into that motel is really the results that we'll get back. And we can change our pricing every day if we wanted to. We don't, but we have the control. So it's about just like taking back control of my investments and my assets and business.
I like how you bring up the moral and ethical side of real estate investing, because that's part of the reason why this show exists. And I've had guests on, like Austin Ye was extremely transparent about the cash for keys process on the show. And the reason why I asked Austin if he can share is so people can learn the truth about what the process is like, and then make the decision for themselves if that's right or not for them.
Yeah.
And he was explicit that the property manager won't do it, so he has to do it himself. And that's generally the case. It's hard to hire someone else to do it for you. You can't just delegate this.
Yeah.
And again, people have to decide, decide what investment's right for you. Does it fit your values? Does it fit your time schedule? Does it fit your capital, your risk, and all those sorts of parameters?
Absolutely. And if somebody wants to do a cash for keys and they have that conversation with the tenant and the tenant willingly wants to take the money, okay.
Yeah, you're compensating them for their trouble.
Right? It's where you're buying these properties under those pretenses. And that's the only way that is going to be able to service the debt. A lot of people are getting in trouble with that. And then they're resorting to measures that are not what I would consider ethical. And so for me, it just doesn't align. It doesn't align with my values. It doesn't feel good. I have tenants right now that are under market value for a duplex. I bought it in like 2018. So that duplex has gone up quite significantly in value. And instead of refinancing and pulling all the money out, I've just done a HELOC. So I've been able to maintain the mortgage low. I've not touched the rents more than what I'm allowed to do. And those tenants have been there for like 20, 25 years.
Wow.
I know that, like, it is what it is, but it's a great duplex and it cash flows. And then it gives me a nice chunk of change on the HELOC side.
Super cool. And yeah, so I'm familiar with the groups that let's touch on that a bit. So you've taken a lot of educational courses as well. That's my understanding?
Yes and no, to be honest. Like, I have done more what I would call experiential education than what I've actually paid for education. And my background is research. And so I have a very strong sense of what it takes to research information. And so I have taken educational courses, but I'd certainly not as much as I would like to. Like, I'm looking for educational courses that I would want to take, that I'd want to invest my time and money into.
Got it. And can you, were these courses good value? And that's part of, I think people get it. I've had some people stop me and say, hey, I know what you were saying without saying it. Thank you.
Yeah.
People who stop me about my show.
So here's what I've started educational courses and I have not completed them because my time did not feel like it got the value that I was looking for, and I'm a straight shooter, I'm very diplomatic and polite, but I'm also very direct. And so I ask those questions up front to see if it is going to meet my needs, because I'm not looking for mindset. I'm good on the mindset front. I'm not looking for foundational level information. What I am looking at now is business. I'm looking for that higher level business scaling operational side of things, which is very challenging to find. And what I don't appreciate when, you talk to people that are providing educational programs and you're very upfront about what you're looking for. And they just kind of whitewash it and just say like, nope, this is for you.
It's interesting because, you know, I've had guests on the show, like for example, like Alex Solga, that episode will never air. But the biggest lessons out of that was like, I said to him, so for those who know Alex, he's one of the owners of Clydesdale Capital, and he's bankrupt personally and in business. And he took, you know, some very expensive masterminds and whatnot. And, you know, within 15 minutes, I said to him, hey, you'd be perfectly fine owning a small portfolio, small multis, even like a 10-plex, 12-plex, I think you'd be fine. But for the scale that you were doing with all the money you guys had, and expensive money too, like paying like 15, 17% or whatever, like well, that's really hard and complicated, right? So like mindset won't save you from difficult operations and expensive money. Not
at all. And it's why I think I'm certainly coachable, and I'm somebody who is a life learner, but I'm also have very high standards, and what I'm looking for is a level. When I think about the experience that I've had in the military, you know, the leadership, the instructional techniques, the ability to go into circumstances and adapt and overcome, like all of those problem solving, it gets you to a level in your life where you can really go into situations and feel confident that in your ability to be able to pivot, to be able to recognize at what point do you need to back out, what point do you need to keep pushing through. But the other side of it too, and understanding, like from an educational standpoint, that I have organizational psychology. And so again, that is on the human behavior side of things. That's the structure of employment. It's workplace behavior. It's team building. All of that stuff is there. I need like the entrepreneur side of things, like the, you know, really, which is tough to find.
You should ask me.
I will. I think we might have talked about it for sure. Yeah. So that's where there's a lot of information out there. And I tell people that you don't necessarily need to have coaching. I think that mentorship is good when you have the right fit, who your mentor is. Surrounding yourself with a network of people, individuals that you look up to, who have the same morals, the same values, is going to open so many doors for you that you don't necessarily have to go and pay for somebody to do that.
I have no problem with paying. It's just there's a lot of options that are not expensive.
No, exactly.
Like Oreo is so cheap. It's such great value.
Amazing value. And it's every single month. It's, you know, I walk into that room and you just feel uplifted the way that people are, and the sophistication that Oreo brings. And that's a big reason why I'm part of that community, is because of the integrity and the ethics and the education that it brings. And the
1-day workshop you guys are hosting, the underwriting, yes. The fundamentals of underwriting. Is that the right?
That's right. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I think it's going to be educational, and just the fact that it's going to be real life case studies here in Ottawa. So you can relate it. You can actually relate it. And they're going to be recent case studies too. So we can actually look at what the rates are and be able to apply that to day to day.
Folks listening, you'll likely hear this after the course has happened, but I apologize to Christian as well. I wish I had more lead time to help you guys promote this, but I told him let's do it again, and let's open it up. Let's open it up to make it hybrid as well. I said I was telling you guys can host your part in Ottawa. I'm happy to host part of it here on Oakville, because I've seen the comments on social media, like, will this be hybrid? Will this be online? Like, will this be in Toronto?
No, we'll call this the pilot project, and we'll get all the kinks out for this one, and then open it up, because I mean, once you do it, then it's easy to duplicate it.
And the price is a joke. It's $150, and the money goes to Canada Food Bank.
I get a tax receipt for it.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, you can get a tax receipt. So it's it's going to be a great event. And so it's really, that's the good stuff, right? Like that's the stuff that I am willing to pay for. The good
it's only $150.
Only $150. Exactly. So it's just about being wary, I suppose. And I always just go back to the standards, being able to go with your gut, ask the questions, be very clear with your expectations. And sometimes you're going to get disappointed too. Like anything that I go into, if I pay money for, I think about that worst case scenario and I think, okay, well, if I don't get the value, it's a lesson learned and my eyes are open and I just won't repeat with that stream.
Right. I'm cheap, so I comparison shop everything, including my real estate, including the courses I take and memberships.
Well, then I'll just go direct to you because I don't have the time, and but I need the good quality.
And we can talk about it offline, but I'd suggest Entrepreneurs Organization for the operational stuff.
I love that. Yeah, I do.
It's a nonprofit, so it's stupid cheap.
Okay.
I have lots of friends I've referred to them. And they all love it, including like Melissa Dupuis, who I believe you know.
I think I saw a post on that, so I think she was just starting out. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll look at that for sure because that's the thing. It's like where there are so many groups, there's so many events and activities and networking opportunities, and it's finding again that right fit to put your time.
Yeah, and cheap because I can't, like Oreo's a nonprofit, Entrepreneurs Organization is a nonprofit, so it's like stupid cheap.
Yeah,
and for tremendous value. You'll like it just for the networking alone. All right, let's move on. Let's get back to the motel.
Yeah.
Tell me about the motel. How did you get into it?
So, feel good investing, and then literally. I had my property manager. So when I owned the bunkies on the lake, I worked it for a year. So I ran the whole thing myself, figured out Airbnb, communication, all that. Decided.
So what year is this? Is this early days Airbnb?
2018.
That's pretty early. Yeah.
Pretty early days. Yeah.
I guess so. Because I had an Airbnb and I was like one of 3 on Hamilton Mountain, which is a suburb of, I don't even know how much. It's called 160,000 population.
Okay.
Today it's flooded.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So I would guess you were pretty early adopter, at least especially compared to today, because the strategy just exploded.
Oh,
sorry,
exactly.
Continue. Yeah. So you had to figure it on your own. There were no courses back then.
No. I didn't know about them because back then I wasn't on social media and I wasn't really like understanding the whole. I didn't know that there were people like me that were out there, which is very ignorant. Like I can't even believe that I didn't even think that there were more investors, but I didn't even call myself an investor. And so just did it, just figured it out. Got great. Like everything was great, super host right away, but it was a lot of work. And so also decided, okay, well, I'm not going to do this for life. Hired a property manager.
Oh, sorry. Before we get to that, let's tell us about the bunkies. How many were there? And then like, what was it? Was it like a bachelor? Was there bathrooms, 4 season? Like, what was it?
So we wanted a family cottage for probably about 2 years, and it was Mother's Day, and I was on Kijiji, and this ad came up for unique cottages. And right away, I was like, I need to go see these, and I could tell that they were special. And so I made my husband drive me in a snowstorm. I got permission.
The perfect time to be selling cottages.
I know, right? Exactly. Like it was a snowstorm on Mother's Day, and I remember messaging the owners right away. It was a private sale and said, can I just walk the property? And they said, yeah, no problem.
In snowshoes.
It was. I've got good videos from it. The minute, and I wasn't tracking Airbnb. I wasn't thinking about that. Of course, I always try to monetize. And I thought, well, we would Airbnb our cottage when we're not using it. But we got on there and there was a cottage down this lane. And then on the other side of the lane, quite a distance, there's these 3 bunkies. And so what the story was, it was owned by 3 families. Each one had a bunkie. It was electric. So they were there was power, but there was no running water. But they were done beautifully. So each bunkie had a queen bed and then 2 singles up top. And so they were 2 level bunkies each. no bathrooms. And the cottage was where it also had like a second level, and this was their congregation area. So this is where they cooked their dinners and slept, or they did have extra sleeping there. So
Right. So there's like the in-law, I forget what what's in tiny homes, the garden suite. Yeah, essentially it's a garden suite but again, no bathroom. It's just a bedroom.
Pretty much, exactly. And so they had an outhouse on the property, and so I walked it, and it was gorgeous. I know.
Sorry, hang on. Where is this cottage, and then what year is this? I don't know the last time I saw an outhouse.
I know. Well, there was a legit outhouse. So this was in Lunenburg County, Nova Scotia.
Oh, Lunenburg.
Yeah,
Lunenburg's
Lunenburg. Really
beautiful.
nice. It's beautiful, beautiful. And it was only 30 minutes from where we lived. So for us, we could just like scoot down. It was direct on a lake, little lake called Butler's Lake. And when I'd seen enough cottages, they were asking $160,000 for this.
Oh, okay.
So right away I messaged them and I said, we'll take it. And I found out shortly after that they received 70 other messages from people, but I was like quick draw, quick decision, and they stuck with me. So
70's a lot.
Yeah, it was, especially for 2018. We hadn't like hit the big COVID bubble or anything like that. We were just entering into it. And we ended up putting septic in the ground, and we actually
replaced the outhouse.
Replaced the outhouse. We did operate it with an outhouse though for the first season and that's where the glamping came into my mind, because there was no running water. So I couldn't market this as like a luxury cottage, but I really beautified them. And so people could it was, glamping. So you had the luxury of a really nice inside, and they had the lake view. So they were direct on the lake. We were able to use our cottage on a regular basis. And then the bunkies were the rental side of the house.
So just to fill in the listener, like I've been to Lunenburg. It's known for tall ships. It's like It's a recreational area of Nova Scotia. It's tiny, but it's beautiful. Food's fantastic.
Yes, very touristy, South Shore. It's just gorgeous to go to Lunenburg.
And the Blue Nose visits there?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So for listeners' benefit, if you remember what a dime looks like, I know we have some young people on the show who don't carry cash, but on the dime is the Blue Nose, so the replica Blue Nose, so the famous ship that won Canada and some big race against the Americans, that it does dock in Lunenburg.
Yes, yeah.
And I believe I saw it there, and I believe I went on board a long time ago.
Yeah, cool. Lunenburg is a very
hot area. Super hot area. Yeah.
Super hot. So the bunkies are in Lunenburg, which is the South Shore. And then I know we'll talk about the motel, but the motel is in like the second area, arguably, equally very touristy. We'll fill Nova Scotia. So the Annapolis Valley, which is also quite close to Lunenburg.
Fancy. Okay, let's finish off the monkey. Why the decision to sell?
We got posted to Ottawa, and we wanted to keep it because this was our forever cottage in our mind. And literally a week before we had to move, a giant tree fell down a hairline away from our main cottage. And we started gutting the cottage. We were fully renovating it. We put a septic because we wanted to have the water hookup. We were going to actually do like a bathhouse for the guests. So instead of outfitting each bunkie with a bathroom, we were going to have one bathhouse. And so we put a septic system in that could house enough for all of the rooms with the cottage and the bunkies. So we had all these plans, but then this tree fell down. And the tree was almost the size of our cottage. It was giant. And in fact, what had happened was when they were putting the septic system in, they ran over the root of the tree, and it was just like one storm and it went down.
Right. It was that ready to fall over. Just running over a root, did it? Wow.
It must have been. And so to us, that was a sign, because we were still feeling uneasy about managing the bunkies, the Airbnb, even though we had a property manager, the lake is a family-friendly lake. So we were very careful about making sure that the guests were not there to party, that this was supposed to be a getaway, like a very nice, serene, quiet type. And it just takes extra management. And so, again, going with what felt good at that time when the tree fell, that was our sign to sell it. I put it up. I sold it privately. I did the same thing as what the sellers did for me. You know, I got so much interest in these bunkies because again, it's unique and we've fixed it up. We've now made it.
What year is this? What year were you selling it?
2020.
Okay.
Ottawa. No, 2021. 2021.
Okay.
Heart of COVID.
Yeah, heart of COVID, and things were hot for a cottage property.
Exactly. So it was a good fit for us anyways to sell it at that time. And funnily enough, the woman lived in Ottawa and she attends my meetups now, which is, okay, here's the thing. Small world. Talk about integrity. And I love this because I, at the time, did not know the investor world. I was not part of the scene. I wasn't, I didn't know anybody. We did a private sale and I stayed true to her as well. And I helped them get through and I get the financing. We did a assumable mortgage. So they assumed our mortgage, which was great because we didn't have to break it. And then they got to mortgage a property that was torn apart because we gutted the inside of the cottage because we were going to renovate it.
Yeah.
So I was above board with everything. I showed her the good, the bad, the ugly. I was just very open and upfront, and I stuck with her. And what I love now, I didn't know that she was going to start attending my meetups, but what she does, and she comes to the meetups, and when people ask her how she knows me, she explains that how the way that I was back then is exactly how I am today in throughout the wholesale process. And it just really solidifies integrity. It solidifies being honest, being upfront, because you never know.
Yeah. Versus we have people share on this show nightmare stories with realtors and wholesalers.
It's a small world. As much as you think you're anonymous, not anymore, not today.
Especially with social media. But I will say that I find Canadians are, maybe, I don't know how other people are, but I'll just say that I find a lot of victims are very quiet about it. Not quiet to me. They'll tell me in private, but then they won't do anything legally. So it's actually, so the damages that are out there are much worse than what's talked about. All right. Actually brings me to something before we talk about the new Motel. Like, can you share that you've lost money?
Yeah.
Because we've all lost money. Anyone says they haven't lost money, they're lying.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a hard lesson to learn. And for me, it's something that I've resigned to. Like, there's still a little hope that comes back. You're always hopeful at the end of the day, but it's been a year now. And so I'm resigned to the fact that it has gone.
Are there lessons you can impart on the listener
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I look back, I did not do the due diligence. And I invested based on a person and an organization that I thought had a good reputation because they were well known. They were doing a lot of this. And so for me, that gave me more security than what I should have done, which is like the actual due diligence of where that money was going and understanding, well, what's the plans with it? How are they mitigating any of the risks? And what's going to happen if it doesn't, if it doesn't go to the plan, the original plan. And so there was no specific property that it was attached to. And so for me, like, I take that blame, and it was a big lesson that I learned. I also have that mindset that if you know how to make it once, you can do it again. And so when you're going into private lending, there are risks there, and that's the hardest part. And so don't give everything that you have during that. And luckily that wasn't everything that we have. It was a big chunk of money. It was $175,000. And so That's a lot of money. But the sad part is there's a lot of people that gave a lot more.
That's sad.
It's really sad. It's really sad. Like my heart actually breaks for them, for us. We know how to make that back, you know, and it happens in life, in entrepreneurship. I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs who are just like, we've lost way more in our time. And it's not something that you want to have happen, but you have to have the stomach for it. But that's not the case for everybody. Not everybody who does private lending is an entrepreneur.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, that too. Like,
right?
And so vision in sales is a lot easier than execution.
Yes. Yeah.
You've owned property. You executed a pretty not easy strategy with bunky Airbnbs. That's not easy.
No, it's not easy.
But at least it was local. It was in front of you.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Like nothing's easy, but then to build scale up, 10xing and stuff. Like, there's nothing wrong with mindset, but again, you can't take your eye off the operations.
No, you have to be capable. You have to be able to. I was talking to somebody the other day, right, who's trying to market their Airbnb right now, their short-term rental, and they're doing everything. Like they're doing all the angles. And I was explaining to them that that's the difference between people who are successful and not successful. The ones who are successful will continue to try. They don't stay down. And where other people might try, and if it doesn't work out, then they just kind of put their hands up and say, it didn't work for me, where you have to have that perseverance. You have to have the resiliency to be able to just keep going.
Yeah, and pour everything you got into it.
Pour everything you got.
That was like one of the big messages from Jesse Itzler. Just like that
I
presentation he
Jesse
gave.
Itzler. Yeah, that
presentation he gave. He poured everything he had into it.
It's amazing. And he's given that, I don't know how many times, but he does it almost like
not that many times. Not that many times.
No.
And he's always improving it too. I've seen the recorded version of it. He did better for us.
Yeah, it was like I was tears I was trying so hard not to cry, and I mean it was just such an emotional but uplifting, and I'm a big fan. After that, I didn't really know him much after before that. But even like back to the lending, I've talked to 3 lawyers on that, and
including mine. I know I was making some introductions for some mutual friends. Yeah,
yes, okay. I did.
He hates douchebags.
Yes.
Can I say that?
No, I think you can. It's a scary world out there, and so if I have to learn these lessons, so be it. Like that's the risk that I take, but also I want to talk about it so that other people can learn as well. And if you do have that inclining, then you have to go and you have to make sure that you're asking the questions and not to be afraid to ask questions that you're going to upset it or upset them.
Oh yeah. Like I do it just like I screen my tenants. I know who people have done business with in the past. I just go directly to them and ask. So actually my due diligence is actually very simple. Again, I know who people have done business with in the past. I just go straight to them without asking permission, nothing, because they already know who I am. Most people will take my phone call. And the thing about real estate investing is that there's so many good operators. There's so many good ones. So my policy is if I just need one red flag, and then I'm not interested in doing business with them. They might be perfectly good business, but again, like there's so many people who have 0 red flags. So when there's like an ocean of people, maybe not an ocean, a sea, a lake, whatever. Yeah. South Shore full of great operators with no red flags, I'll just focus on that. Right? Versus operators with plenty of red flags. Or even just one.
I think that, for us in this world, we know a lot of people and we have access to a lot of people. The challenge is for the normal people that aren't big investors that just want to get that passive income. They don't think that they have that type of access, but these types of podcasts are great because this is opening those doors for people to say, no, you do. Even if you can't like name people right now, the access is there. You just have to seek it.
And everyone likes passive, but in my experience, direct ownership, educate yourself, pour everything you got into it.
I agree.
These days it's a lot easier, but direct ownership is still, and having control is still the best, in my opinion.
I agree. I'm an active investor and I need the control because I trust myself. I trust, like, I need to know what's going on to be able to have the pivot and be able to problem solve. And we just work through things. Like, we're relentless in pursuit.
So tell me about the motel.
Yes.
Why the decision to get back into recreational short-term rentals, whatever category this is in?
Yeah. So the motel, again, had that epiphany, feel good investing. And I hosted a virtual kitchen party for Nova Scotia because I was homesick and just liked listening to the good music. And I still invest in Nova Scotia. So I invited my property manager to come and talk about short-term rentals. And that kind of reinvigorated our connection again. And we started chit-chatting. And so she really kind of came to me and said, I'd love to own properties and not just manage them without the ownership. And I need property managers. And so for us, it was a great fit. She owned a short-term rental company that really kind of blew up. COVID, had 30 Airbnbs that she was managing, had a whole business. And she has a good ear to the ground. She's local. And so I said, if you want, we can start looking at properties that would be more like the bunkies, like a glamping or a retreat type space. And we did look at a motel in Lunenburg. There was one, I think it was a 20 unit. And she called me up one day and she said, hey, there's a motel that's coming for sale. It's a pocket listing right now. Do you want to go and look at it? So they brought me FaceTime. And just like the bunkies, as soon as we got there, it was 100% yes, we want this motel.
Wow, that quick, eh?
When you know the area, it's incredible. Like, it didn't even matter if the motel was needing to be torn to the ground. We wanted this location. And the funny thing is, we did not have the highest bid. So by that time, I think about 4 people had seen the motel. We had the best reputation. They already knew Noelle as my business partner for that. So they already knew Noelle in the area. And all the realtors knew me in the area because I was a buyer. I was an investor for that area. So they knew that we would close that property and they knew that we would operate it well. But we didn't come in at the highest bid. And I'm pretty stubborn when I do my numbers, and I ran them very conservatively. They asked if we would go up, and I said no, that was my top. And so they chose another bidder, and I asked if we would be the backup. And so when I found out the condition timeline, it was 3 weeks for this property, I knew we had it in the bag.
Well, okay. I want to hear the full story. Why were they selling? Do you know?
It retired. So it was an older mom and pop operation, and they were ready to retire.
What was they asking?
What was he asking?
8 million?
No, that's the thing. So I want to say 799.
Wow. And did you know them? Did you get a chance to talk to them during the process?
We tried, but not as friendly people.
Oh.
So we did
Doesn't
eventually.
sound like a Nova Scotian.
No, I know.
Is that stereotyping?
Maybe a little bit. I know. It's
Especially small town Nova Scotia.
The reputation was not great for this property. And so even they had very low stars, and I read the reviews as part of our due diligence, and a lot of the complaints were quite unfavorable, not a very nice person to deal with. So that was part of the what I had to understand working with the seller in order to go through this whole process. We ended up getting it for $835, so that's what we went to. Eventually, so the first buyers that got accepted, they put a 3-week condition for financing. And what we found out in the negotiations was it wasn't actually just a purchase and sale, an asset sale. It was a share sale.
Okay.
So we purchased it. We purchased the business entirely, and
Which came with the land.
which came with the land.
Yeah.
2 vacant lots actually. So it came,
Oh.
so we got three lots all together. One had the motel on it, and then 2 vacant ones right beside it, all waterfront.
Oh my God.
It's really nice. Like that's why you would do the same thing as soon as you would see it's on Evangeline Beach, Nova Scotia. So it's direct waterfront, overlooks Blomidon. It's like the view of the valley.
So then what's the plan? What was your plan going in?
To be ready. And so to make it as easy as possible. So when I knew that I wouldn't budge on my price because I really didn't even know how to run the numbers for a motel. So I did my best from like a short-term rental perspective. And I wasn't comfortable to go up higher than what we were doing. 725 or 825 was my max. And I went 10 more thousand. That was my max. When we found out the 3-week condition, I knew that they were overzealous buyers because again, this was still COVID buzz that was going on. We're just kind of coming into the downside of it, but people were coming in hot. And so as soon as I heard that we were going to go back up, I made our condition deadline a day after their condition to say that like we would not continue our backup offer past it because I didn't want the seller to extend anything with the first. And I got all my people ready. I purchased quite a bit in Nova Scotia, so I already had an appraiser, commercial appraiser, the inspector ready to go. I had the credit union, that's who we work with, so they were all ready to go. And the environmental. So we basically went and we told the seller that everybody is booked and ready to go as of, I think it was like 5 days after the condition deadline. And all of them knew it too. I was very upfront and I said, listen, we're back up. I just want to book you for this date and I'll let you know if we don't get this. Mm-hmm. So it really helped the seller, and the seller did not extend when the original buyers wanted an extension and then came to us and accepted our 835.
And then, sorry, how long were your conditions?
So we put in, it ended up being just over 30 days conditions. So I put in like 3 weeks I knew would take to get the environmental. I knew an appraisal would take about 3 weeks. But what had to happen was, because it was a share sale, I worked it in 2 phases. I did the due diligence as if it was a purchase and sale agreement for the asset. So I looked at just the asset itself. And then we did the due diligence for the business. And so as soon as the conditions were met for the asset, we moved into a share sale agreement.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. So Again, it was just, you figure it out. The information is there. I talked to the right people and it was not too bad. I mean, once you learn the due diligence needs to happen legally and why it needs to happen, and then as well as financially and why that needs to happen, then it's a fairly straightforward process in the end.
Okay, I'm glad you think so. So we purchased the company's shares as well.
Yeah.
To me, it's not so straightforward.
It's kind of like taking over somebody's house, I guess, and all of their passwords and all of their programs and what they're doing. And so that's been the hardest part, because now we rebranded it and trying to take over the accounts and really just like change the perception of this property. So we went big.
So who looked over their books, for example?
We had an accountant in Nova Scotia.
Fantastic.
And it was really important to, because our accountant is here with Cherry, but it was really important for us to have a local connect, because again, you're dealing with local accountants, and so it was easier for them to be local to local. Yeah. We really tried to
especially if they have context, especially if they're used to having motel clients.
Exactly. So everything was just like, okay, what's the easiest way to navigate this? And so that everybody is communicating together and that they understand that we are going to close this property. But there were, of course, delays, not as many. I think we actually ended up closing about 30 days after.
Fantastic. For listeners' benefit, like the business's records, a lot of them aren't good.
No.
Right? a lot of sellers fudge things or accidentally leave things out. So the classic real estate examples are like, maintenance costs or PM fees, or they self-manage. So they just leave those costs out completely. They leave a vacancy allowance, all those sorts of things. My point is that it's not always easiest to review someone's books if you're not from that industry. Like, so when we bought our business, Cherry's reviewing the books of another accounting firm. So it's, at least and Cherry's done audit before. So like, we got lucky that way because I don't even know what you pay for that.
Well, it didn't end up as much. Like the way that they were describing it, that it was going to be an extra 25,000 for fees in order to get the share sale agreement and all of the due diligence costs.
Ooh, okay.
I think it really only cost us about $5,000 on the accounting side and maybe like
That's
$6,000
incredible.
on the legal side.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Again, these are people that I've used on a regular basis. And so my concern was more, okay, is there any legal liability? Like, is there any issues that might pop up over the past 2 years that we might be liable for? Are there any contracts, anything that they're not paying? On the tax side, have they been doing their taxes above board? Are we going to get hooked for that? Because when we bought the business, we assume all of the liability. When it came to the actual numbers of the revenue that they were generating, we knew that we would have a completely different approach. So we wanted to know, okay, are people staying at the motel, and what does it look like at worst case scenario if we were to rent it or set the price at what they're pricing it? But we increased our price right away, and we fully renovated and completely just gutted the place.
Were there any staff? Did you take over any staff?
So we did not take over any staff.
Did they have staff? They have folks on employment contracts? Oh, none.
Yeah,
Okay.
So there was no staff, which was great. The owner was the one that would be on site. Then he had some cleaners, and we did take on one cleaner, but they weren't full-time employees. So it's more contract right now. And our motel is fully automated. So we actually have no staff.
Super cool. All right, before we get into that, just for listeners' benefit, when you inherit employees, it's almost like inheriting a tenant.
Yes.
You don't know what you're getting into, but you have a contract with them.
Exactly. It's that was we were very happy to see that there were no employees, and our lawyer was happy too.
Right, especially with Noelle, like she's going to run the thing, so she'd likely have her own team. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
All right. Tell me about automation. Tell me about automation. So like when someone checks in, there's nobody there, type thing.
There's nobody there, and so
like similar experience to most people's Airbnb experience.
Exactly. So we run it like an Airbnb, and we set things up in just in case. And so there's been a lot of lessons learned, even just from the platform itself. We decided not to put it on Airbnb at the beginning because the platform that we were using was not integrating with Airbnb. And it was causing too much confusion. So we just wanted to keep things simple. We had one platform. We used a Checkfront at first. And I wish we would have done more research before jumping to Checkfront. But at the time, going through the rebrand, the renovations, trying to open, it's almost like that became low on the priority list, which it shouldn't have been. It just ended up that way. So last minute, we decided to go with Checkfront. It was good. It wasn't able to expand. So it couldn't integrate to any other platform. And then halfway through the season, which I also don't recommend, but we then transferred to WebRes Pro, which is what we're using today. And that platform is great because it automates or it integrates with Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb. And so now what's happening is we're getting bookings from everywhere.
That's awesome. I probably am using WebRes
Pro.
I'm probably using it unknowingly because when I'm shopping for a rental, I won't say when and where, but I notice it's on different platforms.
Okay. Yeah. It's and that's why we went with it. And so it's solid. I haven't found it as user-friendly for myself as Checkfront, but again, that's not really the area that I get into the weeds with, but I still like to be involved with that. My husband's actually become an expert with it, so he helps in the background. But
Power couple, very nice.
very,
Supportive partner.
yeah. And again, the military side of him is just like push through. He gets the job done, no matter what. And I need somebody like that, and so we operate so well.
Nice.
And he's much nicer.
Entrepreneurs, I find a lot of entrepreneurs, we joke about it in private. We say like visions are great. You can't execute, you're dead.
Right. That's right. Yeah. He's, if you've read Traction, like I'm definitely the visionary in the relationship, and he's the integrator. He's the guy that is like gathering he's much better technically than I am too. And he does it so much easier. So it works.
Yeah, we have EOS in all of our businesses.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, and I learned from EO. Entrepreneurs Organization, completely different, unrelated. Acronyms are similar for no just coincidence.
But it's funny because the military really kind of operates EOS style as well. Once I started to really learn the lingo, and it's been a very natural progression for me to implement in my business too, just because that's what we're used to. So
yeah, the structure. The structure that makes sense.
Like structure. Like a structure, but yeah. So we're fully automated. Guest will reserve, and then they get like a little message that will go to them. And then the day prior to their check-in, they will get their specialized code. The codes are generated each time for every new guest, and then they get a nice big welcome message, very similar to how Airbnb is operated. And we have security cameras all over the place. We make it very clear that there's nobody on site per se, but if anybody messages us on email, like that's one of our, right away, we're monitoring the email to make sure that somebody is responded to. We have somebody who lives in a cottage that's like 2 cottages down. So we call him our concierge. Newfoundlander, name is John, and he's awesome. Like if we need wood or if the guest needs anything, John will come and bring it. We also will let guests go in to get extra coffee if they want. And so we have all that monitored. And then of course we've got the cleaners on site between like 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock during the day. And then Noelle is 10 minutes away.
And then how's the financial performance been?
It's great. Yeah, it's been like better than I expected. And so that's been, I mean, obviously the biggest and best outcome of all of this is realizing the potential that you can have to earn revenue when you move into something like this. And so even from like a tax perspective, being taxed as an active income instead of passive because it's a business is just like very exciting for us. So and I can even and I've shared this I think I was at the summit and I shared that within the first 90 days, we brought in 100,000 gross.
Oh, wow.
And our mortgage is again, around 500,000. So it's pretty good.
That's amazing.
We've now gone, people are booking into next year. Weddings we're sold out every single weekend. So a weekend for us is about 2,600. Just for a night, actually, I should say, just for a night.
Sorry, what's 2,600? You get a room? What do you get?
No, so 9 rooms. So if we book out all 9 rooms, then that's, I think, around 2,600. I'd have to redo the math, but it's just over $2,000.
For the listener's education benefit, like what kind of, what's the term that the all Airbnb hosts use? Like what percentage occupancy? Like what's your percentage occupancy for the year?
And so when I was running the numbers, I had it at 40%. And so during that time, we've been even at around like 35% occupancy. And we're making, $100,000 every 90 days. So it's just over 30.
And that's good enough for, I imagine.
Oh yeah. Once this is just our first, we just opened May 27th. So we missed a bit of the spring. We came in hot. We had one booking mechanism. And so now that we've been able to expand, we are very excited about what the outcome is going to look like. I mean, even if we could get up to 50% occupancy would be amazing.
What do I Google? What's the website?
The Breeze Motel. So www.thebreezemotel.com.
Are you at the Breeze Motel on Instagram? Yeah, Annapolis Valley.
Yeah,
This is you. Yeah, found you online. Oh, that's pretty easy. You're on you're now on Annapolis Valley tourism site as well?
Okay, excellent. Good. I'm doing my job.
That's not news to you, is it? You don't know Avery Birch by chance, do you?
Avery Birch.
He was on my show. He's got 100 Airbnbs under management, mostly in Halifax.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Have a listen to his episode. I can introduce you if you like.
Yeah, I'd love to.
As well. But yeah, super cool. So it's on Instagram, The Breeze Motel. TheBreezeMotel.com is your website. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
I was looking for the views. I found your shorts.
Did ya? Okay, good.
Instagram shorts.
We have Instagram, and what I've actually found, so we have a social media team. They do all of the videography and manage it for us. Mm-hmm. But TikTok has been our biggest. I will put up a thing on the motel, and TikTok goes crazy. We get up to like anywhere between 200 to 400,000 views of me talking about the motel. It's nuts.
Okay, TikTok, The Breeze. I don't have an account.
No,
actually, I deleted it.
So you have to look up me, so Victoria Clooney, because I don't even have a Breeze account on TikTok. And I will talk about it, and people are just absolutely love it. And TikTok can be pretty brutal sometimes. Like, people are not the nicest, but we have got nothing but love for the motel. And it's almost like all of Nova Scotia has just like swarmed this motel. They love it. And we get a ton of business from it.
How come you don't do the same, how come you don't repost on Instagram?
I do sometimes, but again, like, I'm tired.
I'm listening to your TikTok.
Are you?
So I have your voice in both my ears.
There you go. Yeah, it's really just user-generated content. So what I try to do is I just talk about my experience. I don't really, I just try to be like a real person, because that's what I am. Buying a hotel, trying to figure it out, and people love it. Like, some people will even put in comments like, I'm at the motel right now watching this.
Yeah.
But we get a lot of hits on the website. We get a lot of bookings are going to come through TikTok, which has been, again, another eye-opening experience.
Yeah, I've seen the comments. My husband's 51 and has been going to the motel since a young boy.
Aren't they nice?
So it's been there a while.
Yeah, it's been there a long time. I think it's about 60 years old.
We stayed there 2 summers ago. The views are unbeatable. Can't wait to visit once the reno's complete. Nice messages.
They are really nice messages.
These aren't so bad. Where'd you find the bad ones? I know your social media guy, Ryan, is awesome.
Shout out to Ryan. He would eat that up. He loves that. Again, a good Nova Scotian. Like, we hired Nova Scotia social media company because we really wanted the voice of the Breeze to be that East Coast vibe. The hospitality with, like, little bit of little swag.
You like that less. I joked with Avery as well, because our context was different. I'm from the GTA. He's from Halifax, and he told me how they broke up a bachelor party, and the guests apologized. Yeah, you're right. We should leave, and they still left him a 5-star review.
We just had. So we actually called the cops for the first time on a guest.
Yeah.
They're not paying. So my husband, we've had some issues with Expedia, because in Expedia, anybody who books with us pays up front. So that's that's been amazing for us from a revenue standpoint, because even if they're booking next summer, they're paying right now. So we're able to generate revenue, even if we're not going to be in our high season, if people are still booking. But Expedia, what we're learning is that they don't collect the funds. So there was like about $11,000 gap of funds. that we found was missing. And so it was because anybody booking with Expedia was not getting charged. So we had to go back after the fact. Long story short, but there was this gentleman that booked with us. I got a complaint from one of the guests of noise, and it sounded like it was getting aggressive. So we don't mess around. Like, we called the police right away. They came out and did a check. And then we found out that he didn't pay. Then my husband went direct to him. My husband is military police as well. So he's connected, and he knows, what the rules are and where they can go. And the guy gave us a 5-star review.
Too funny.
Super
Did
funny.
he unknowingly not pay?
No, he doesn't have money on the credit card.
Oh.
That's what we're being told.
Yet the booking was still allowed.
Well, that's the funny thing. So I don't know how that happens. And that's part of the growing pains when you go through all of this. It's like what you think is logical, that if we
take money before you allow a booking.
Money, that's right, is not. And the fact that we have to then go back and charge people. And so that was complex. We're having issues like Airbnb is declining requests before even us getting to, like, as soon as somebody wants to book with us, even though we have the instant book turned on, Airbnb will go and decline it. So now we have to figure out why.
Algorithm.
I know.
And then what did your investigation show? Was it valid? Was it valid rejection? Because I know lots of Airbnb investors have criteria. Was the algorithm accurate, and was it reasonable in declining?
No, and we keep it all very open because, being a motel, we're not really checking people's backgrounds like you would normally for any type of Airbnb. As long as they pay, we're pretty good. Like, we have all of these policies in place, and we are very clear with that. But no, it was Airbnb was saying that it was WebRes Pro integration, and WebRes Pro is saying that it's Airbnb. So then you just got to go through all the channels to figure out, okay, where is the actual problem? And so that's the challenge that you just have to get through. But once you get through it, then you're good for the next one.
Speaking of next one, are you looking for our next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
How is the market now? Because it's all over the news, like Muskoka and like Kawartha cottages are just hammered right now.
Yeah. And that's why I love motels, is because with everything that's happening with Airbnb, it's almost in our benefit, because as soon as regulations come in and bylaws, we're commercial, so they can't touch us. We get commercial appraisals. So the motel just recently got appraised. And so after 10 months, it came in at 1.7. So we're, quite happy with that. And
double.
Oh, exactly. And that was just 10 months. Like, we're getting that appraised much earlier than I was expecting to do it. But it cost us nothing, really. We just needed an update letter from our appraiser. So I was like, okay, well, I'm so curious. How do I not?
I wonder what the sellers think about that. If you just ran a type ship, you could have had double.
But that's why. So the location is obviously very important. We're we'll develop the 2 vacant lots that came with the motel as well. Like, we'll expand. And then, we're looking for the next one that's going to be good. And again, want to be conservative, want to feel good about my purchase, and want to know that it's in an area that the location is not the draw. And so it's just a matter of making it stand out and have good operations.
How big are these lots? And would the plan be just to put additions on the motel, or just standalone motels?
Well, that's why we left them vacant, and because we really just wanted to focus on customer service and feel it out to see what would be a good fit before we go and invest any money in making plans. But the whole three parcels is an acre. So we have about an acre for the whole thing. And so we've talked about putting like more like modular type cabins on there. We could build another motel if we wanted to. Some type of wedding type venue, making, trying to think about like what's the highest and best use. So we're in the brainstorming stage right now, but we know the people want to come. And if we have wedding parties, it'd be great to have cottages for the bride, for the family, and then the guests can stay in the motel.
Talk
So,
to my
yeah.
friend Tasha. She's got a lot of experience in
Yeah.
that space.
Okay.
Got
Love that. I
tons of
wrote her
experience in
name
that
down.
space.
I wrote her name. So it's fun. We're having a lot. That's again back to the feel good investing. It's so fun when we meet, when my business partner and I have our meetings, we can't help but just daydream about all of the things that we want to do. And it's hard to actually get to the specifics because we're just thinking about packages that we can offer. We want to collaborate with businesses. We want to really incorporate that local feel.
Yeah, my good friend that does short-term rentals that focus on weddings. What she tells me is that it's not like long-term tenants where usually they just bring you problems, versus like when couples getting married, it's just pure happiness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if you can, we want to keep things simple
and big budgets
and big budgets because they know people are splurging, and we have a range of prices. So we've got like 2 oceanfront suites, and those are going to be the highest price. And they've got, an extra room. They've got a full kitchenette in there. And so they're the much more nicer ones. And then we've got, everyone has a view of the water, which is the nice part about this motel. But just, I guess as you start to go back towards the back part, we just try to offer different price points for people.
I have another friend that also offers, because if someone's hosting a wedding, they need chairs. Just so happens she rents chairs by the chair. That's another income stream.
Well, that's it. Like, food trucks, there's lots of stuff. There's a community center right beside us. So, we've been just trying to get over to be able to either rent that or acquire it somehow, because it's untapped, this area. And there's so much potential.
9 rooms is awesome for like an out-of-town wedding. Right?
Exactly.
Everyone can stay in one venue.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because most of the rooms we have either doubles, 2 double beds, or queens or kings. So we have a variety.
Amazing. And then can we talk about your networking, your meetup groups?
Sure. Love to.
Well, tell me about them. What are they called? Where do you meet?
So I run a women's networking group called Invest Her. It's the Ottawa chapter, and it's part of a larger group that's based out of Ottawa. It's based out of the U.S. And we meet the first Wednesday of every month. I try to keep it very regular so people can plan around it. And yeah, we average between 35 to 50 women come out every single month, and we tend to go. It's completely. So it's not a non-for-profit. It is just completely free for women to show up and be surrounded by women that are doing things. And it was a big gateway for me. Like I went to my first investor meeting here in Ottawa, and that was what opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, there's people like me doing this and doing even bigger things than me. And so it's just encouraging women of all levels. If you're interested in real estate or you're, building multifamilies and subdivisions, you're welcome to come. And people come in and they might feel timid at first, or they might not think that they are ready for this, but they leave just feeling so good. It's just such a welcoming space. And then, of course, I'm also involved with Oreo. So I'm on the board for Oreo, and we meet on the second Wednesday of the month. And my Wednesdays are busy. And Oreo is amazing. Oreo is a the membership is $127 annual, which is ridiculous because we bring in 2 speakers every single month, and the quality is impeccable. Like the amount of energy, the board that we spend to vet these speakers, and it's almost it's a job. So there's about, I think, 6 of us on the board, and each one of us have different roles, but we all come together and we make the decisions together. And it's an amazing community. And so that one, I think we have up to like 200 people come monthly for that one. We're at the Infinity Center. So it's nice because we have a regular spot so everybody knows where to go. And
very nice place.
Always trickle out somewhere afterwards for good networking.
Fabulous. And then where can people learn more about Investor and Oreo?
In Oreo is www.oreo. So sounds like the cookie, but it's spelled OREIO. So Ottawa Real Estate Investors Organization.org. That's our website there. And we always post. We also have an Instagram account, Oreo, insta.oreo. I think that's it. And
I'll
then
have it in the show notes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. And for me, Victoria Clooney, if you find me, I'm on all the social media platforms. Clooney is spelled Cluney. So it sounds like the actor, just spelled different. And then same. So for Invest Her, that I just have that in my link in bio, and we're on meetup.com, which is nice because then if you register or you sign up, it's a free membership, and then you just get notified where the events are and when they're taking place.
Amazing. All right, Victoria, thanks so much for doing this.
It's amazing. Thanks
Hopefully
for having
people
me.
learned a bunch. Both loss and wins.
Oh, that's how she goes, hey?
How long you been in business? How long has the motel been running?
So since we've acquired it, we're at, actually, it's going to be 1 year in November. So are we, oh my gosh, tomorrow is our 1 year anniversary of owning
Since
it.
you've owned it? Since it's been open for business or owned it?
Since we've owned it, the motel prior to us, people are talking about like back 50 years, which is nuts. Like some people have mentioned on TikTok, I think I did one video asking for people to respond with like connections that they had to the motel. And we had people saying that they had been there as a child or that their parents went, their grandparents, like it's a staple. And people are just so happy that it's been revived.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, so you're making people happy.
It feels good.
And you're making money.
Which feels even better. You know, that's the point. You can do all of this and you can find ways to match your passion and you can make profit because making money is good. You just need to figure out how to do it and love doing it.
Yeah. And you live in Ottawa, Ontario, yet your investment is not purview to Residential Tenancy Act or LTB or the
Correct.
equivalent out there because you're commercial.
Correct.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Feels
And it's
good.
attached to real estate too.
Well, exactly. So it's in the world. It's all very, we're just building on the skills that we've developed throughout our experience with real estate. And now it hones even more skills. Like now I'm looking at businesses. I love the idea of businesses. So when, Cherry was talking about hers,
Yeah.
I was a champion for that because I was like, I am very invested in learning more about buying business. I see the value in that.
Yeah, especially with investors struggling for cash flow and like residential real estate in Ontario and BC, like people need to expand their search.
Exactly. So if you have the skills and you can do it, which we do, we feel very comfortable in that world. Great. What's next?
It ain't passive though. It ain't passive. You have a partner who's your boots on ground and day-to-day operational.
And I would continue that model. Like I was looking at a painting company the other day just for fun and thinking, who would be good to manage a painting company? And I can just keep doing what I'm doing from the business side of things. The same with the tiny homes. Like I'm partnering with a business that owns tiny homes, that makes tiny homes. And so I will have a role in that is comfortable for me, that, expands on the skills that I have, but you find the people to do the work that they are good at.
Is this the house painting, like residential painting?
No, well, the tiny homes is they're local here in Ottawa, and so they actually build tiny homes, and they're expanding, and they also want to do good in the community, and they're actually building like a tiny home community in Perth, which I'm super excited about. And so it's just opening more doors to people when it comes to affordable investing.
Amazing. And we'll plan to have you back on the show when you're more ready to talk to it.
I would love to. Yeah, stay tuned for that. That's exciting.
Amazing. All right, Victoria, thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Erwin.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link is also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.